Hi, carpal tunnel syndrome is a repetitive stress injury that can occur when we repeatedly do a movement or a motion with our wrists. Let's talk about some tips to help you with carpal tunnel syndrome. So the first thing we can do is to try and maintain the wrist in neutral. For example, if you're holding a mouse, so the first thing is that you should not have your wrist up or down. You want your wrist, this part here between the forearm and the hand here, this has to be in a straight line. A little bit of a upward tilt, 5 to 10 degrees is fine. Otherwise, try and keep this in a straight line. Another thing is, when you're holding the mouse, you don't want your hand to be either to the left or the right. You want the forearm to this middle finger, this line to be straight. So you do not want this or this. So in any of the activities that you're doing in your daily life, you should try and keep the wrist in neutral. For example, if you are lifting weights in the gym, just make a note of how you have placed your wrist. Or if you're carrying a baby or your handbag or any weight in your hand, just make a note of how you have placed your wrist. So it should basically be in neutral all the time, because neutral is a position that is optimal position for your wrist joint. Okay, so the second thing is, you are working in an office environment for 8 hours plus, and you have a job which involves a lot of work on the keyboard or the mouse. So one of the things you can do is some range of motion exercises. Basically, you are going to take your wrist and you're going to move it to the left and to the right and up and down. And then circles, you can make a fist if you want, circle clockwise, anti-clockwise. There are some stretches that can help. So what you can do is, if you are in your office, so in every 20 minutes to half an hour, whenever you have the time, what you do is you can place your forearm like this and give yourself a good stretch with the other hand. This is what you can do. Okay, let me show on this side. This is what you can do. Yeah. So this stretches my muscles on the lower side, my flexors, and this stretches my extensor muscles. Or you can even do it against the wall. So for example, if your wall is here, you're going to press into the wall here and here. Another stretch that you can do is for the nerve. So because carpal tunnel syndrome occurs when there is an irritation of your median nerve that is running through between these carpal bones, which have a very narrow space, and if there is an irritation of the median nerve there, stretching of the median nerve is a good idea. So there are two ways of doing this. One is just a static stretch. So to start off, you make a fist and your thumb is not out, your thumb is in. And what you're going to do is open the fingers of the hand, and then you're going to turn your wrist backwards, and then you're going to stretch the thumb out. So this is the position you want to have for the stretch of the median nerve. Let me show you one more time. So basically, you start off in a fist, you open your fist, open your thumb backwards, stretch the thumb, elbow out with bent at that angle. This is your median nerve stretch. Now your nerve is running through these muscles and ligaments and all the bony areas here. So think of a nerve which is gliding through these areas. So whenever you move your wrist up and down, or hand up and down, or your thumb, this nerve actually glides along these structures. The nerve is coming from the neck, so it glides all along its length. So what we can do is a nerve glide. So for a nerve glide, what you will do is, you will take your hand again, the same thing, but this time your elbow is not bent. So this was our nerve stretch, right? So you're going to do the same thing. My hands are like this, and the wrist is going down. And then what you're going to do is, your head is straight. When you take your head up, you're going to tilt your head and look down. So one way of doing it is, you keep your head in this position and you just keep moving your wrist up and down. you should feel the nerve stretch along this area, along the inner side of your forearm. And the other way of doing a nerve glide is you do wrist up, head to the side, wrist down, head to the center. Wrist up, head to the side, wrist down, head to the center. Now the reason being, think of your nerve as a rope. Okay, so think of it as this rope. Okay, so one in which you keep your head in a neutral position. What you're doing is you're pulling on this rope up and down, and in the other one what you're doing is you're basically moving your head and your hands, so you're gliding the nerve along with the structures of the forearm and the arm. So there are two ways of doing the nerve glide. Now these stretches that I told you before, they can be held for 5 seconds. If you're comfortable, you can hold them for 10 seconds. These stretches that I had told you about. If you feel that it is very painful when you go down all the way, then maybe instead of going down say 90 degrees, you can go about say 85 or 80 degrees. And if you feel that there's too much pain when you put the overpressure, it's okay, you can let go of your other hand, and then gradually you can build up the stretch by adding in the overpressure or stretching your arm for your wrist further. For the nerve glides, you start off with about 5 seconds. So for example, if I'm here and I'm doing this nerve glide, I do about say 5 times. So 5 times up and 5 times down. So that is my starting. So similarly for when you're moving your neck as well as your hand. So you start with about 5 seconds and you gradually work your way up to 10 seconds. So another thing that really helps with carpal tunnel syndrome is a splint. Your physiotherapist would be able to advise you on a splint for carpal tunnel syndrome. And yeah, I hope these tips are useful for you.
Join my Facebook group where we discuss these topics in more details. The link is in the description below.